All right, so let's get into it. Today, we're going to go over some clips from my first lower body day of the week, which is a posterior chain bias lower body day. To me, it's an area that, if you are a competitive bodybuilder, like you just need to have that in place. Like I guess it's unfair to assume this, but I think sometimes when you see someone who has like really good everything, but you know, the like glutes, the hamstrings, the erectors, just the whole backside, like from we'll say from the calves to like the traps. If that looks a little underdeveloped compared to the rest of you, it just kind of looks like, man, like they're afraid of doing the hard work. So it passes that test, right? That visual test that if you see a physique with like a big, strong posterior chain, especially in the lower half, it's like, oh shoot, they do all the hard things, right? So I think it's super important, especially for competitive bodybuilders. And to add to that, it's also the areas where the last bit of fat comes off. Like that's where the we draw that line in, like, oh, you're shredded, to like, oh wow, you are like really well conditioned, is like when the bottom half of the posterior chain is like all the way peeled. So you really want to have that area nice and developed to really get your point across. If you are a competitive, not just bodybuilder, but physique athlete, this goes for all classes, right? But also I'd say, like, outside of just competitive bodybuilders, like even if you're just like I think this is, can't say just, because I was one for the longest time and I took my training just as serious. If you're just a recreational bodybuilder that wants to get the most out of themselves, same thing. Like there's so many benefits to it. Like, again, it just makes things look complete. It makes you look like, man, you're a hard worker. But outside the gym, like this is the sort of stuff that, won't matter to you until it does matter. And what I mean by this is, like, just as you get older, right, you'll appreciate having muscle there so that, hey, like you can do things, you can move. Like it's one of those things that, I guess it's the real important stuff, but it's hard to see it because we're, usually at the forefront we have these more superficial goals, but stuff usually runs a little bit deeper than that. But nevertheless, that's what we're doing today. Let's get straight into the training. So this video gets 500 likes. Next video, we'll have a physique update, throwing that out there. Personally, I love starting with Romanian deadlifts. I feel that just mentally, physically, it's such a demanding movement that it just makes sense to. Mentally, in that this is probably as technical as a lift as it gets as a bodybuilder. So you have to be like mentally super present. But there can also be, I don't know, they're fun, right? So emotionally, like it just really gets you going, that you get to open up with a lift that, hey, you can go quite heavy on. It contributes, I think, a lot to what is a solid head to toe physique. The physically is like, it just wipes you. So you also want to be fresh, especially given the fact that there is a little bit more risk involved with this movement compared to a lot of the other movements we do as bodybuilders. So 365 was, I guess, my last warm-up. It was supposed to be. I'll just touch this weight. Usually it's part of my current ladder up to my working weights, like for as many reps as I need to until a rep feels normal, the way I want it to. And in this case, it took about 3 reps. Usually it's under 5, sometimes it's 1. This was supposed to be my working weight for the day. I just had no idea how high today's ceiling was, but it makes sense. I've been running this program long enough where at this point, some of that stimulus should be manifesting into progress. So I had, in my mind, I was gonna do this for reps, but I performed that first rep and I'm like, whoa, we have something really good in the tank today. So I just did 1 rep, put it back, and let's get to work. So last block, 465 for 4, and I fought so hard for that 455 for 4 was about where I topped out. We had a little bit more today. So some new things I've been working on when it comes to the Romanian deadlift is ramping it up my thighs. So not just like pulling it up, like and having it away from my body, but kind of sliding it up my legs. Makes that first rep or getting the bar off like it's just a smoother intro. It doesn't feel as heavy, saves me energy. It's been great. Next, just try to take the smallest step possible without, having to be paranoid about hitting the hooks. And from there, we do our thing. But yeah, conserving energy on the transaction, getting it into place becomes more and more important as you get stronger. Set of 6. And I'm like, whoa, I can probably just keep it there and it'd be a really good day. It would confirm that this training block did what it was supposed to do. But I'm like, you know what? Let's go 10 pounds over the last block. I think it's going to, if anything, it's going to feel just like 455. I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference. I'm pretty sure I have this. And if I'm being perfectly honest, this was probably the cleanest set of the day. Yeah, by far the cleanest set of the day. I was scheduled for 4 sets today. I ended up doing only 3 just because, who knows, this might be a hot streak. It might not be like a 1 week thing. And then I'm kind of, the next few weeks, I have about 2 weeks left on this block, training at a lower level because of fatigue. That's one thing about the RDL is that you will notice a lot of whatever you're feeling, where you are in your block fatigue wise will show up on this lift. So I'm like, hey, let's capitalize on it just because I have been training hard for a while now. 475, 46 just flew. And this is where I'm like, this can either be a really dumb idea or it might work out. Nevertheless, like, man, especially as an advanced lifter, and I think this applies to intermediates as well. It's like, okay, so do I go for more and potentially in the hot streak here, or or do I just kind of cruise and hopefully turn this into like a multiple week affair? On this week, I decided to let's just go for it, because I think knowing that this maybe going forward is what I can do on really good days is it's just good to confirm so that I can just mentally be more prepared for such battles. So yeah, ramped it up, smallest step possible. I didn't like where my feet were, but this was too heavy to adjust, so I just went with it. Outside of that, from a technical standpoint, one thing I really like to focus on once I'm standing up with the bar, once I've walked it out, is I like to really let my arms hang. This kind of just puts me in a more neutral spine. I feel compressed through my midsection, and it's easier to create a lot of the intra-abdominal pressure, that Valsalva that I want, and with the spinal position that I want. So this was clean, man. This was clean. It can get cleaner. There's a few things I don't like, but we'll fix those in time. Next up, calf raises. So I throw these in here after Romanian deadlifts because, boy, like after a movement like that, you almost need a little intermission. And yeah, I'm going hard on these calf raises, but nevertheless, they're never going to be as hard, both physically and mentally, as a Romanian deadlift. So I like throwing something like this after that big opening act so that, hey, I get some time to chill out, let the fight or flight situation come down a few notches, recover for my next exercise, which will be that's a pretty important compound. Big pauses, bottom of the calf raises. I like to do these in myo rep fashion just because it really condenses my training time, which very important these days for me, but also it's just, I said in my last video, it's just hard to have to restart the whole motor recruitment game multiple times, go from like 0 reps to like, 8, 12, whatever it is. And then have to reset that again to get to those grindy reps, especially on single joint movements. Myo reps, super practical. So I'm just going to show you guys one myo rep. But yeah, this was a PR too. I think a lot of it was just the feel-good hormones, the opening set. That's how I track my progress, is usually that buy-in set with the myo reps. And I feel that a lot of it was just like the good energy coming off from the Romanian deadlifts. But yeah, calf raises with pauses. That's what I've been doing the last, like 14 years. And no, more like 16 years. And it's been the one thing that's cured my high attaching, not genetically very gifted calves. This is my hip glute bias leg press. So the goal here is to get the glutes to do, I wouldn't say a little bit more in the quads, but I could get more quad out of this by simply lowering the seat, but I want it high so that my glute starts at a pretty stretched position. Knee isn't really going like to the end of the toe. There's a lot of movement taking place in my hip. It's a fun movement because, hey, you get to load up a lot of plates, but at the same time, that's also kind of annoying just because it's heavy weight and blood pressure and looks like your ego lifting. But being perfectly honest, this is probably how the majority of people leg press anyway. So I don't think anyone notices but me. Getting over a situation I was having with my right hip. So that's why these look kind of sandbaggy. Like right now, it's my right hip. So whatever the right hip does, the left side just kind of follows. And yeah, pain hasn't been an issue. I can still feel like that the right hip isn't like 100 yet, but it's certainly at about 90%. So there's 3 sets on that. And then some hamstring curls. So this is lower body, but primarily the backside of the legs. I think on a day like this, I probably would do, where I have hinging and the hamstrings already being stretched, I'd probably do something that's a prone leg curl, but I only get to train at this gym on this day, and I really like their seated hamstring curl. So I put my hamstrings through some good lengthened positions twice on this day. So yeah, it just usually that's how I would do it. I would probably flop them, but in this scenario, this is how we have it. So yeah, this one's made by Cybex, and I had never tried their seated hamstring curl until they recently got this, and quite the gem. The only thing about this machine that can be a little bit better sometimes, it's just hard to hold yourself in that position, but it becomes a little skill. Once you figure that out, it's actually not that much of a bother. So with this one, we just do straight sets. It would be a candidate for myo rep work, but sometimes too much myo rep work can also just it can become a mental stress as well. So yeah, take these into partials, and the next thing kind of makes no sense. I love sticking some little like rogue arm work on my lower body days, just because, hey, you get to train your arms fresh, which is going to, they should be progressing when you mix them with, like, I'm gonna upper lower split for those of you guys that missed my last video. And so I get to see what the biceps are doing. It's a great way to, yes, get a lot of stimulus, but also get a general idea of how things are flowing, how you are progressing, right? Because you get to train them fresh. Yes, there's some residual fatigue from like the big lifts that came before, but personally, I don't think that impacts me as much as it might impact others. And I think a lot of people who think it does, it's not nearly to the extent that they might believe. It's been a common theme on the internet the last few months. Feedback for myself on this one, I think I've become so paranoid of hitting the bottom with the dumbbell that I think my range of motion I can sneak in another inch. So something to work on next time I have these. I also don't like the fact that I'm kind of tipping my humerus over. Like you can see that it's kind of lifting, like on the, yeah, like by my armpit a little bit. And that's kind of changing the angle, not only changing the angle, but then I kind of get to slingshot it back. And you have to, especially as you become stronger, as you become bigger, you have to just monitor all your other body parts that can be contaminating a movement, because it's just very easy to get other things involved that you didn't want to be involved, and they can help a lot more than you think they are helping. Again, especially as you get bigger and stronger. So like little things like on a lateral raise, like just kind of doing this, like you don't realize it, but it's like, yo, maybe that didn't impact things too much when you were, 20 pounds lighter and not as strong. But as you get stronger, you just have to watch out for these things a whole lot more. So right now, the way we've been doing it is one activation set and then 4 myo rep sets, and that's pretty much it. The rest times in between my myo rep sets are auto-regulated. So I just usually aim to take as much time as I need to get about a third to a quarter of the reps that I get on my activation set. So yeah, really the only thing you guys didn't see on this day was sissy squats, and because I ran out of time, I had to get milk for my daughter, and then abs. That was it. But this is my lower body, my posterior chain dominant day. Not very long, not a whole lot of work, but it's a lot of good work. And like I said, super important area, I think, when it comes to a complete physique. That is it. That's what my lower body posterior chain bias day looks like. It's not a whole lot of work, but I like to think it's good work. And yeah, like it's my favorite day of the training week. A big part of it is because of the RDL. Again, you don't have to Romanian deadlift with a barbell. You can do it with dumbbells. You can do it with a trap bar. I think a trap bar is probably the best tool to do it with if you have a good one. You don't have to even RDL. You could good morning, 45-degree hip extension. You can load those quite practically as well. So yeah, a lot of options in there, but I do think it's an important part to just having a complete bodybuilding program. Yeah, that is it for this one. Again, enjoying putting these out. It's Sunday morning out here, but I'm like, man, everyone's asleep. I'm gonna go put this video together, put it out there. Hopefully you guys get a little bit of something from this, learned a few things. But again, I'm open to feedback too. Like, what do you think? Other than that, I'll see you guys next week. I think what I'll do, I think I'll do my other upper body day, and then we'll end with a lower body day. But yeah, if I get my 500 likes, we'll show you guys what I'm working with. I'm nervous because I guess I've been talking it up a little bit, but I think it's ready to do some things this year. We'll see.